Like a big stinky fart, Palworld has just dissipated into the wind, never to be smelled again. Like, it is crazy just how quickly this thing has fallen off. After a long period of irrelevancy, Palworld finally released their 1.0 update, which briefly surged their numbers up to about half of what they were at their all-time peak, and ever since then they've just been slowly declining. This week I was told that just wait until the weekend and then they'll spike because Palworld fans have jobs. And what ended up happening is that we consistently got a 150,000 player drop every week throughout the entire week, every day throughout the entire week. And now on Monday, it's fallen even further from that because now it's at right now it was at 400,000, which is significantly lower than it was this time last week. So the numbers are dropping. There is no long-term relevancy for Palworld. It's never going to have this kind of brief surge of relevancy again. It's over. And right now you're seeing people desperately try and sell the card game. You have that one weirdo who's trying to say that the TCG, it sold 3.5 million cards, and that's somehow impressive when Pokemon prints 10 billion a year. Again, if you look at the actual numbers, Palworld is just not competitive, not only with Pokemon, but with pretty much any other Nintendo franchise, okay? There are just lots of examples of this. It really feels to me that Splatoon Raiders actually outperformed it. And that's kind of crazy to say, but considering how much the general gaming community rallied behind Palworld, but it is true. Palworld does have more discussion about it. It has better lore, it has better action, it has better gameplay. The frame rate doesn't drop as much, the visuals are better, the story is better, there's more content, right? Raiders is a very good example as to why Palworld is never ever going to succeed. In that Splatoon Raiders is a spin-off game from a Nintendo IP, and Palworld is the flagship game of Pocket Pair, and yet Raiders clears it in every aspect, right? And I don't even like Raiders that much, but it's undeniable that Raiders is quite a bit better than its immediate competition. And if you actually compare Pokemon as an RPG franchise, the narrative with Pocket Pair fans right now is they do this thing is they're oh, I put hundreds of hours into Palworld. It's my favorite game ever. 100 hours is pretty mild for a Pokemon fan, okay? A lot of these Poke YouTubers, they put thousands of hours into Pokemon, okay? And across a wide range of different games too. The entire idea that Palworld is bigger and better than Pokemon because of its Steam player counts, it completely diminishes the fact that Nintendo doesn't publicly release their player counts, and two, that Pokemon fans are divided a bunch of different products who are all engaging with the brands in different ways. There are plenty of times where I play multiple different Pokemon games a day. That's not something that Pocket Pair is ever going to compete with. But the narrative has always been that Pocket Pair has outsold Pokemon. And this is the big point of contention that a lot of people bring up, is that they think that Pocket Pair has sold 40 million units. They really think it's true. They really think that Palworld has outsold every single Pokemon game. If that was true, Palworld would be a phenomenon. Palworld would be talked about outside of Twitter. It'd be a mainstream thing. But it isn't. The only thing Palworld is known for is being a knockoff of Pokemon. Palworld is just the Temu, the Pokemon at home, right? It's that knockoff brand that grandmas buy at stores because it looks similar to what their kids what their grandkids Palworld has not sold 40 million units. And this is very, very observable simply by looking at the numbers and the exact statements made and where the information is coming from. They're not that successful, honestly. You have people coming out and saying that oh, Palworld, it's made 750 billion $750 million since launch. And I'm just like, Pokemon Go makes like more than that by itself in like 2 years. Okay? like again, 750 million. It sounds impressive, but not so much when you're going up against the biggest brand in the world. And honestly, I haven't seen any indication that it's true anyway. You know, like people keep throwing out these big numbers with no real concern for the context or like what it means like business wise. Because what Pocket Pair did was they ripped off Nintendo and then promoted themselves as having gotten away with ripping them off, and now they're playing victim now that they're getting sued, and now that they're losing the lawsuit. Palworld is losing the lawsuit, by the way. Like, this has always been their business plan, and yet people don't really see it that way. People see it as, like, some huge, like, actual, like, by its own merit success story, and it really, truly is not. Like, I do think this is the major takeaway we have to... we have to have for this, like, that we have to take away from this, is that, like, Palworld is, like, posturing. Like, none of these numbers are real. Like, the player retention numbers are not real. Like, the idea that it's, like, this huge brand is not true. Like, you look at, like, you know, behind the curtain a little bit, and what you see is, like, a scenario that truly doesn't make any sense. You know, it did not sell 40 million units. It is just, like, the long and short of it. And even if it did, it wouldn't surpass Pokemon in relevancy, because there are plenty of games that technically outsell Pokemon. You know, stuff like Grand Theft Auto, stuff like COD, stuff like that. But, like, they're not, like, Pokemon. You know, Pokemon brings in more money because of, like, how well-run of a brand it is, and how merchandisable it is, and because of all the other stuff it does, like, outside of video games. Like, Pocket Pair is not going to have the same kind of success. And that's very obvious simply by, like, looking at them and what they're doing and, like, how they're trying to damage control them. Like, again, they are trying to tell you that Palworld has outperformed Pokemon when it's not even number one on Steam right now. Like, that's the angle they're going with. And, like, people are just desperately trying to, like, avoid reality. You know, like, they're not questioning it. Like, they're just trying to tell you that, like, well, look at the player count, though. Like, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Like, Pokemon has more players, you know, overall than anything Palworld will ever do. It's not even really worth bringing up, honestly. And yet, like, we're still in this phase where people will just delusionally deny everything about how Pocket Pair is failing. Right. And I think the most blatant example of that is the lawsuit, because right now people are, like, insisting that Nintendo's lost the lawsuit, that patents are getting thrown out, that, like, nobody's happy with Nintendo right now, that the lawsuit is frivolous. And that's just not true. Like, if you actually look at the sources for this, it's some English speaking writer from a website that has nothing to do with Japan or the patent office and doesn't, like, understand Japanese patent law. So what we're seeing is, like, people misconstruing statements from, like, this individual and passing them off as fact, when in actuality, like, what we're seeing is just, like, a complete and total Nintendo domination. You know, one of the big misconceptions I keep seeing is people, like, spurging out about Nintendo not getting, like, a big payout for the lawsuit. Like, that's not the goal. They don't need to make money on this lawsuit. Like, the important thing is shutting down Palworld and just crippling their business, and they have already succeeded on that because they've already prevented Palworld from infringing on, like, several critical aspects of their brand. You know, with the whole ball thing and some, like, they've already had to make changes to the game because of that. Palworld's already, like, admitted fault in a sense. They've already made concessions. But that's not going to be good enough, I think, because, you know, they infringe on Nintendo's patents, and they're going to have to pay for that. So we are going to see, like, Palworld fall off no matter what. They're never going to recapture this. Like, nobody's going to care about anything they do after this ever again. But, like, the simple reality of it is that this is something that never should have happened. It is just my mindset, is that people never should have taken Pocket Pair seriously. They never should have, like, believed these numbers. people really should have been like more skeptical of what we were being told about this game and about like the legal proceedings about it. And like the reality is nobody did that because everybody wanted to believe that Pokemon was going to fail and that Nintendo was doomed. Like that's all it comes down to, really. That's what we saw happen. And it is absolutely something that we have to address going forward because this is the same exact nonsense we had to deal with when it came to Yokai Watch or when it came to Temtem, when it came to like any one of these like awful Pokemon clones. Like, we were always told that Pokemon was finished, that this is the Pokemon killer, that Japanese children are moving on from Pokemon, and like that just hasn't happened. Like, and it probably won't happen for a long time at this point. Like, even if something blows up and becomes hugely successful, like Fortnite, like, you're gonna have to maintain that for decades to have a fraction of the relevancy that Pokemon has had. And I think that's a big problem with Fortnite, is that it just isn't possible for them. Like, they're too reliant on like the one super popular aspect of the game. In Fortnite's case, it's the Battle Royale mode. And like nothing else they do really takes off or becomes relevant, essentially. Like, and we're gonna see that happen and play out over and over and over again over the next several years. Like, there's going to be more examples of like huge brands like Fortnite, Grand Theft Auto, and COD just massively falling off while Pokemon remains relevant. And it's entirely because, in spite of what people say, Pokemon is one of the most well-run brands in entertainment, if not the most well-run. Like, people do not realize how good Pokemon actually is. And I do think Palworld fans really need to learn to accept that.